Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. I do need to update my website a bit. It's looking a little bit, what word is, not updated. I haven't updated it for a few months. But anyway, everything that's on there is all correct. But I'm going to be making some changes because why not? So, this week I'm going to talk about something I haven't ever talked about before. Such a thing is possible. And yes, it is. There's always something that you can learn in astrology. So let me give you the background why I decided to do this today. A, I realised I hadn't done it, but B, was because I was analysing someone's chart and they were talking about their mother and they were talking about something to do with their mother. I was thinking, I wonder what house that would be. So there's a thing in astrology called derived houses. And what I'm going to do is we have got a chart so we can play around with that. And if you're listening on YouTube, please go to this address so that you can see the charts, because somebody commented on there the other day. I have said it before, but I'll say it again, that if you're listening on a platform that doesn't share the charts, because I share it with Libsyn, who's my host, and they send everything out, relay it out to various different providers, one of which is YouTube, and there's no way of sending the charts that I upload to YouTube, because all YouTube is taking is the audio. They're not taking everything else. So you have to go to Astro Mary, ASTRO Mary, or one word, libsyn.com, which is LIBSYN.com. And so if you're listening to an episode now, not this one, so the episode that we're on at the moment is 452. If you a while back listened to another episode, 399 or something, all you need to do is to go to astromary.libsyn.com, and at the top of the page is a search box, and you can write the episode number. So start with the word episode. The first 20 episodes are written as words, like 30 THRTY, but I went as far as 100 writing it as words, and then when I got to 100, then it went to numbers. So every episode up until episode 100, and I think 100 is 100, but anyway, you'll be able to find it, or Google it as well. But that's where all of what we call the show notes are located, so you won't miss anything, and you can just skip over there and you look at the chart. So I am sharing the chart today. So what we're talking about today is a thing called derived houses, and I'm going to read two bits of information for you, so to explain what they are. But what had happened, I'd got a person I was working with, and they were talking about their mother and some other person to do with their mother. Which house would that represent in the client's chart? So let me read astro.com's wiki, and then I'm also going to be reading Orrery Astrology Plain and Simple by the lovely Anthony Louis, because he covers it as well. But let me just do the Astro Wiki. Derived houses, DERIVED. Derived or turned houses are often used in Orrery astrology, but they have a wider application for assigning house rulerships to complex topics. Turned houses require a basic grasp of the topics ruled by different houses according to their house numbers. The basic method is to determine which houses are the principal rulers of the topic in question. Because compound topics apply to two or even more houses, the astrologer first determines which house is most fundamental to the topic. He then counts from that house the same number of houses as the next house number relevant to the topic, which ideally yields information about the matter in question. Essentially, the method sets the initial relevant house equal to house number 1. The counting starts with that house. For example, suppose a client asks an astrologer about her husband's money. In a horoscope, the husband is represented by the 7th house and money by the 2nd house. Beginning with the 7th house as number 1, the astrologer counts 2 houses, arriving at house number 8 in the chart. This method is actually the origin of the 8th house as the house of shared resources, namely income from the marriage accessed by both spouses. Now, that's probably blurred right over your brain if you think anything anyway like I do. So let's have a look at the chart example. Now, to make life easier, I got the chart for someone whose ascendant is 0 degrees Aries, 10 minutes, 41 minutes. So the chart, when you look at it as equal house, is going to look easier because we've got all the signs of the zodiac in the order that they are, and it starts with Aries. So using that example we've got there, which they're saying the client, so assume this person now, and they were actually a designer. So let me just go back to the data. They're called Andrée Putman. Putman was a French designer. She died on the 19th of January 2013, age 87. Now, this is an AA rating chart, so the Rodden rating for it was like how accurate it is. It's super, super accurate. So Andrée was born on the 23rd of December 1925 at 11:45 in the morning in Paris, France. Nice, easy. The source notes is by somebody called Paddy de Jabron, with Act 3794. Lois Rodden collected a lot of charts that have ended up on Astro Databank. It's such a useful resource. So we've got Andrée Putman, and we're using her chart. Thank you very much, Andrée. And we're going to use the info they've given us on Astro Wiki. So we're talking the 7th house. So this is a client. So this is Andrée's coming to you. She's a client. She's asking about her husband's money. So the husband is represented by the 7th house. And as we know, because of all the meanings of the houses, the 2nd house is the house for money. So we begin with the 7th house as house number 1, and we go 1, 2 from the 7th, which gets us to the 8th. Now, don't do what I did when I first started doing this. I started with 7 and then I counted on from the next house. That was why when I first even read about this, I got the whole flipping thing completely wrong. So Andrée Putman's 7th house is in the sign of Libra, 0 degrees Libra, because her ascendant 0 degrees. And that's, if we're saying that's the husband, is the 7th house, his money is the next house, because we're saying number 7 has now become house number 1. And we know that house number 2 is money. So that's his money, because we have to do it by the person and then the thing we want to find out about. I'll give you some other examples as well so you get around it. Now, in her case, in Andrée Putman's chart, she has Saturn and Mars in the 8th house. So this would mean that the husband's money has Mars and Saturn located in them, but we're not looking at it from his perspective. We're looking at it, the client's Andrée. So if she's asking about, what's my husband's finances like, I would be saying, because obviously I'm the expert astrologer here, I'd be saying, well, you've got Saturn in there, that's a pretty responsible planet. Mars is a bit sort of a grumpy planet, so he might be a bit responsible about his own money, but a bit grumpy about it to other people, because that's the Mars thing, it's in the sign Scorpion, it might be secretive about it. That's how this derived system works. Okay, so that's example number 1. Now, derived houses can become more complex. Yay, we're doing astrology, is going to do that anyway. Now, I'm going to read this one slowly for you. So, if the client's sister is worried about her son's health, the sister is the 3rd house, because the 3rd house is siblings. Children are a 5th house matter. So the sister's son, basically the client's nephew, is also a 5th house concern. The 5th house from the third house. So we start with the third and we're going to go 5 houses. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're counting on from the third house, making the third house number 1. We just count, I'm using fingers now. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. We get to the 7th. So children of the 5th house matter. So the sister's son, the client's nephew, is also a 5th house concern. The 5th house from the 3rd house is the 7th house. Note that in this particular question, the 7th is no longer the house of marriage, but the house of the nephew. The 6th house rules health. So to inquire about the nephew's health, we count 6 more houses. So we're now on house number 7. We're going to go 6 more houses. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We counted on 6 more houses. So beginning with the 7th, and we arrive at the 12th house of the horoscope. So in Andrée's case, we've got Uranus there. So say this was your client, our client, because we're working together on this, aren't we? A client comes and it's my sister, and she's worried about her son. I've got a sister with a son, and she's worried about his health. So if this was my sister's child, which it isn't, it's this Andrée woman, we got Uranus in the 12th, so we got sudden happenings. Now, natally, we're not going to make an analysis of this, yes. What we are going to look for is transits to that house. But I'll come on to that in a minute. So when a derived house goes past the 12th house, it continues around the chart through the first house. For example, a friend's child. So let's say Andrée's friend, so we're going to start friends, is the 11th house of friends. 5th house from the 11th is the 3rd, so we're going 11 and we're going to go 5 more houses. 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. That takes us to the 3rd house, which should yield the desired information. Okay? Now, as I say, when it comes to the natal, you could probably make some sort of, I don't know, not prediction, but you could make some sort of announcement about it, or it could relate natally to someone. I don't know, I'm not using my chart, so I'm not going to be looking at my sister, and I've got millions of flipping siblings. I don't know where to start with it, but if we're looking at clients and that type of thing, it's another thing to add to your toolbox, yeah? Especially when it's a transit. So a natal thing, yes, will tell you stuff about things, because you can look at grandparents and all that, but I won't go to grandparents. So let's now quote from Oreo Astrology, Plain and Simple, from Anthony Lewis. Now in there he starts the book talking of the saddest story about a friend of his. I think her name was Sarah, and she was pregnant, and I think she'd lost what happened now, there was something about she asked me to cast a chart to determine the health of the baby. I spent time with her explaining the nature of Oreo astrology. During this time I was aware of her concern, but she had not yet formulated it as an Oreo question. There came a point in our discussion which she said, okay, I'm ready to ask a question. Is the baby healthy? Only then did I check the clock for an accurate time. At that moment I knew that she understood what Oreo astrology could do, and I understood the meaning of her question. Now I'm not going to go into the whole, because this is the sadder story, but anyway, what he says here, because the question is about Sarah's baby, we must use derivative houses. The 5th house governs pregnancy and children. In the example chart, Cancer is on the 5th cusp, making the moon the ruler of the baby. In addition, Venus and Mercury occupy the 5th house and become co-rulers. So which house rules the baby's health? The 6th of any house governs the sickness of that house. So in Andrée Putman's chart, so let's say it's her baby, and we've cast an orrery chart, which we're not doing at the moment, we're looking at natal, but her 5th house starts in the sign of Leo, and then we go 6th from that, so we go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We get to the 10th house. So this is what Anthony says in his book, so which house rules the baby's health? The 6th of any house governs the sickness of that house. The 6th of the 5th is the 10th house of the figure. And in his example chart, Saturn is on the cusp of the 10th. But in this chart here, we've got the 10th is Capricorn and the sun's located up there. So could we say, I don't know what children we had, but this lady had, no idea. Now, there's a difference between horary astrology and transits, but the question that I was working with this person, this is somebody in the family, this wasn't a client, so I wasn't going to be that vague with a client, for goodness sake. But it was just sort of running through my head, what would this represent for this particular person? So, derived houses, you find the house of the issue, you then count on for the next issue type of thing. So you have to remember what your meanings of the houses are. If you want the cheat sheet, it's on my website. You can ping me an email if you the web address for it, so you can get houses. So go to maryenglish.com/keywords, KEY, capital K, KEYWORDS.txt. So you've just got really, really short words, interpretations for the houses, and then you can count on and you can find out various other things about that house and what's in it and what's transit in it. So going back to Andrée Putman's house, say we wanted to know about the health of her mother, because this was the issue that came up with this person I was talking to. Now, according to Anthony Lewis, the mother is the 10th and the father is the 4th. I have done a podcast on this before and I have no idea why they did that. But anyway, he says in here, as far as astrology goes, 4th is the father, the home, the family, domestic issues, the end of the matter, lost and recovered wealth, blah, blah, blah. And the 10th is the mother, authority and superiors. So say we were asking about the mother's health. So this is Andrée Putman now. So the mother, according to Anthony, is the 10th. And if we count on the health of the mother, we'd go 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. So the health of the mother would be the 3rd house. And is there transiting anything through it? Now, I wasn't going to do put into this chart where the planets are today, but I can guarantee you that Uranus is going through the 3rd house of this person. But this person's already passed, and I didn't think it was ethical to be adding into their chart where the planets are today because they've already passed. But as we know, Uranus is transiting through the 3rd, so you could, if you had a client and they were asking about their mother's health, and I get asked that quite a bit, and I tend to look at the mother's chart themselves, but from the client's perspective, the health of the mother is going to be the 3rd. What's transiting through this client, Andrée? What is going through their 3rd house? Uranus, something unexpected could be the operative word here, be happening. This is not horary astrology. I'm talking with you about how I would use it. I'm just using it as transits and to get, because people do, to get a clearer idea. Finish your sentence, Mary, to get a bit more, to be a bit more helpful for someone. Because 9 times out of 10, when a client comes, they don't just want to know about themselves. They want to know about their immediate surroundings, like their boss or their kiddies or their next door neighbour that's driving them crazy, or their husband or their employer. They're going to have questions about that. So you can look from the client's point of view. How do they feel? What is going on for them? Because in your natal chart, there isn't a house for grandparents, there isn't a house for nephew, there isn't a house for next door neighbour type of thing, which would be, I think 3rd house is neighbours anyway, isn't it? Siblings, yeah, neighbours. 3rd house is neighbours. So yeah, you can look at the natal house, and maybe you would see. So going back to this Andrée Putman person, if they were, I don't know, falling out with their neighbours and Uranus was transiting the 3rd house, and you go, well, that would be why that is type of thing, yeah. But you can do the health of something, the finances of something, the career of something. Oh gosh, so many Capricorn women want to know about their children and what jobs are going to have. Can't tell you the amount of times I've had that in a consultation. Can you let me know about my child's job? Have you asked the child? Their Capricorn mothers always want their children to go into higher education. I haven't met a single one yet that didn't, but that might just be the type of people that I'll read for, I don't know. So derived houses is they'll tell you the issue, what sort of relative is it, which house does that relative, friend, employer, whatever, represented by as far as houses go, then count on from it. Now obviously that cheat sheet doesn't give you everything for every house, but if we're using Anthony Lewis's book, first house is the person that's asking the question, it's the querent, it's the health, that type of thing. Second house is money. Third house is communication, news, siblings, neighbours, neighbourhood, close kin or relations, cousins generally, visits, short trips, cars. You're not going to be people asking about that. Fourth house, father, home, family, domestic issues, buried treasure, foundations. Fifth house, children, creative self-expression, hobbies, speculation, gambling, lotto, stocks, risk-taking. Sixth house, illness and sickness and tedious jobs, drudgery, detailed work. Seventh house, the mate, partner, spouse, significant other, a person with whom the querent has dealings but whose relationship is not specified by another house, opponent, competitor, open enemy, rival, astrologer of the querent. So in your client's charts, you are represented by their seventh house. So for goodness sakes, check to see what's transiting through the seventh when you're doing the consultation. Is that a good day for them to come to speak to you? Eighth house, death, procreative, sex, surgery, injury, transformation, rebirth, refuse, taxes, debts, mortgages. You'll have quite a lot of people asking about that. Investments, that's the eighth. Ninth, long distance travel, religion, foreign countries, education, the clergy, philosophy, voyages, legalising ceremonies and the court system. I'm not reading you every single interpretation, but 10th house, mother, authorities, superiors, the boss. So somebody asking about the boss. Oh, I had a lady I read for ages that was very, very worried about her boss. The government, structure. Oh, God, we're all worried about the government. Structure, career, profession, employer, monarch. Haha, we've only got one of them, thankfully. Ruler, president, judge, executive. 11th, friends, groups, clubs, socialising, counselling, relationships with humanity. Unbonded relationships, is that when you're living with someone? Legislators, legislation, hopes and wishes, ambition, comfort. 12th, seclusion, undoing, personal failings, hospitalisation, confinement, jail, bondage, prisoners, captives, slaves. I don't know how many people I've ever read for that what's going to want to know about their slave. Hopefully it'll never flipping happen. Institutions, widowhood, retreats, clandestine affairs, those types of things. But you're not going to be using those natally because those are more sort of orrery things. But the 12th is the house of dreams and the unconscious. And this particular person, André's got Uranus there, so they might be the sort of person that has to go to, it's in the sign of Pisces, obviously, because it's all the houses in the right order, that they might be a person that could rely upon their dreams, might have a sudden dream about something. Oh, I should have paid attention to that. Because every chart you work with, yes, you're going to take into account the natal chart. That helps you communicate with the person and helps you understand who they are and where they're coming from. But it's always, always, always transits that need to happen in a consultation. You have to get your head around transits. That, as far as I'm concerned, the most important astrological thing. How long will this go on for? And if the person knows, well, it's going to go on for 25 years, then they'll just have to buckle down and find a way to adapt themselves to it. But if it's something fast, it'll be gone in a few weeks' time, and that transit's over, and then they might feel heaps better. So derived houses, counting on from a house, whichever house you're starting from, use that house now as number one. So if you're doing the sibling thing and just counting on from the third house, use that third house as house number 1 to the next house you go to. Don't do what I did, which was accidentally skip to the next house and count on. Well, that didn't work, Mary. So I now completely have my head around it. So whichever house you're starting with and you're counting on to find out about something else, always with that starting house that you're starting with, make that number 1 and then count on to the house meaning of the thing that you need to find out about. Experiment a bit. Send me an email. Let me know whether or not you've done something for yourself or for a client or it made sense. Natally, you're not going to see too much, but transit-wise, you might do. And maybe you've had a client and they had a question about something. So ping me over an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk, and we'll have your chart or the client's chart with the client's permission, please, onto the podcast and we'll go through it. So Derived Houses today. Hope that's helped. I'll be back next week. Have a fab week. Bye-bye now.